do your intro.
What's up? Brandon Lilly here.
That's such a new one. What's up? Tania George here. Welcome to our second part of our hanging out with Mr. Brandon Lilly. We pretty much did the first video about four or 5 days ago, so we've had the absolute pleasure of spending some time with this young man who has been extremely generous with his time and knowledge, and I think we've chatted. We should have actually just carried the camera around with us.
Yeah,
and just chatted. So we're just going to have a little chat. Brandon's on his way today, so we pretty much talked through the workout that we did on Tuesday. Was it Tuesday? Mm-hmm. I've lost all timescale. We've chatted through the workout that we did on Tuesday. It was really very, very helpful. It was really nice for me to do something different, and it was really nice to just have somebody else take the lead and say, okay, do this, okay, do that, whereas usually it's kind of the other way around when I'm training with my training buddies and they're going, what are we doing today? And it's like, it was really nice and it was nice and fast. That was I kind of missed that because everything seemed to slow down a little bit.
I think that's the one thing that training by myself is really, well, just being a busy person. I think a lot of people want to tell themselves they don't have time to do this, and if you don't have the time to do 45 minutes or an hour, you're much busier than I am, and I can tell you I have a pretty full schedule. So I do train by myself for the most part at home, and that's one of the things that I wanted to challenge myself to do, not only to get stronger, but I was looking at myself in the mirror. I didn't look the way that I used to before my injury. I didn't feel the way that I used to before my injury. And I said, how much punishment can I give myself in an hour and still progress? You can have punishment to where it's, a negative, but you can have punishment to where it's a positive. And that's really what I'm doing, is just staying moving. If it's a superset, a giant set, drop sets, rest pause, whatever it is, trying to make the intensity very, very high, but the time of training very, very small. So I challenge myself to do 2 hours of work formally in an hour now.
Okay, that's really, really interesting, because I know that my training has slowed down dramatically. Whereas that if I do something and it's in an hour, I almost feel like I've not done enough, if that makes sense. So even if I'm blowing out my ass, I kind of think, is that it? And I'm possibly just getting, I don't know if lazy is the word, but you kind of you think you're finding a groove, but you're not, you're stuck in a rut. Yeah. So I think that is definitely something that I've taken away. And to be fair, after I learned to train with Paul, and he was really fast and furious, and the work was done really, really quick, and he was still super strong at it. Just kind of slowed it. I maybe giving myself little excuses. I'm getting old, I need to warm up a little bit more, and probably to the detriment of fitness. So I think that's definitely something that I'll be taking away just from the little session that we have. And sometimes, if it's going to be a heavier session, it might take a little bit longer. If there's more people, it might take a little bit longer, but not have that too much chatting in between.
Yeah, on my heavier days, specifically, it may be that I only do the main lift within the hour. It's not preferred that it's that way, but some days that's just what it takes to get it done properly. And the last thing that I would want to do on a heavy day is rush. So if that means that I have to come back later and do 20 to 30 minutes of accessory work, that's okay. But I force myself to find the time. But it's not like I'm going in there just moving at this. And you even saw, it's not like a pace just to push the pace.
Yes,
it's a pace just to keep the movement going. And when she's lifting, I'm spotting and loading or whatever. And then when I'm lifting, she's spotting and loading. And it was just a really good rhythm that you get into. And at the gym, when I'm by myself, really the only downtime that I give myself is to change the plates, drink a little bit of water, because especially in Kentucky right now, it's so hot. And
exactly the same in Manchester, obviously.
And just for me, hydration has been something that I've forced myself to commit to, because, as I said, I was as good as I was capable of being better. And as I've come back from the injury, I've kind of self-analyzed and really started over. A lot of the things that I used to believe in so strongly are not that I don't believe in them now, but I'm challenging myself to find different ways to do the same, to get to the same road. It's made me a better coach. It's made me a better athlete. But starting over and not just depending on the gifts that I have under a barbell, challenging myself where I'm not good, which is in the kitchen, nutrition, hydration. And you know this, you're seeing me in Finland, never sleeping, but forcing myself to sleep.
Which I have to say you do surprisingly well right now. Well done.
Thank you. I think after a week of exhaustion in Finland,
that was tough.
I was pretty much ready to sleep on anywhere I sat down. But it's important to realize. I think that there's a fine line between where everyone says this is a hobby, and then everyone takes it very seriously, but we don't do the things that we would if we were a professional athlete.
Yes, So you kind of want full-time results, but from part-time input.
Right. And, and that's the way that it is. And I remember, even 10 years ago, the idea was, just get as big as you possibly can. After you weighed in and you're hydrating, just eat as much junk food as you can. And that was the way that it was. And not necessarily saying that information was bad because you got results. That doesn't mean that that's the best way.
Yes, it could be better.
Yeah, and for me, I'm 34 years old. Not that that's old, and not that any age is really old, relatively speaking. But we have to just continue to look at things. What can I do better? If I'm this good, if I change this, could it make me this much better, and so on. And coming back from an injury, I certainly have the memory of who I was. But at this point in time, I'm trying to re-envision who I am and who I'm going to be. And that's something that, before people would have said, he's a hard trainer. But now I want people to say, man, that guy, he does everything right. He does the nutrition, he does this and this and this. And that is what I want to be remembered for. And not necessarily the numbers on the platform, as I do want that, but the respect of the effort. So,
in hindsight, which is always a fabulous thing,
sure,
because I'm sure at the time of your fall, which I still haven't seen, I will not watch. Obviously, you probably didn't think of it as being a blessing or a blessing in disguise. Do you think that in hindsight now that it has been as difficult as it has been, do you think you would have looked at these areas had this not have happened?
I think I would have been out of the sport by now.
Okay.
And I think I would have been lost. I think I would have been very much a different person in a negative way. And I think the injury forced me on my back, literally, brought me to my knees, and it made me sit down and look at all the things that I had focused on. I forced myself to be good in school and get degrees and, tried to excel my life, but then I put all the cards into one stack for powerlifting, and I was very unbalanced. I was very lopsided, and, I wasn't the well-rounded person that maybe I believed I was or hoped to be. As far as relationships would go, my friends would go out and do things, and they'd say, hey, you want to come? And after enough times that they invite you and you don't go because...
They stop inviting you then, don't they?
And you put powerlifting, something that, for me, was gone in an instant, I'm very lucky to have the chance to come back and continue doing what I'm doing, but, it could have been gone. And then what? It's all for nothing at that point. So I really stepped back and tried to invest in people and relationships and let the powerlifting kind of enhance that, rather than trying to make, powerlifting influence everything else.
I think it's something that we talked about very briefly yesterday when we were having something to eat, and that this is what we do. It's not who we are. It doesn't actually define us, and it shouldn't do. It shouldn't define anybody. So I think that's we've always tried to. And I think we said as well, sort of like with social media, you only kind of you become very, instead of being multifaceted, it almost becomes one-dimensional. Whereas from what you're saying there, you were actually one-dimensional. You weren't appearing to be one-dimensional. No. That was actually it.
Well, I think the thing about social media is you can very much paint a pretty picture.
Oh, yeah.
And
my life's great.
Yeah, and that's the thing that it was. You know, I'm at these competitions, I'm traveling, and everything looked really, really good, but inside I was lacking, you know. And now, you know, I was telling Alex at the gym, I try to challenge myself to be as strong inside as I am on the outside. So, you know, whether that's reading a book or reading an article or going on a hike or all these things that I used to love to do and did every single day and just kind of let fall to the wayside. What's it going to hurt to pick up a book versus watching a lifter do, you know, 2 hours of YouTube videos watching lifters versus 2 hours of reading a book, or, you know, going outside for a hike. I mean, you can stay inside on a treadmill, or you can go outside. Why not go outside?
I don't know if you're the same, but I don't find. I mean, I look at other lifters, and I watch some videos and stuff like that, and that's not actually the thing that I find particularly inspiring.
Yeah.
It doesn't inspire me to go and do something. Something we talked about. Diane and I had a TED talk, picking up a book or hearing a fable off a client that they tell and you kind of go, wow, that's the kind of thing that I think inspiring. Or having a client that is possibly not the most gifted, but really has that attitude where they really don't give up. They carry on going and going. Where do you find? It sounds like, where do you find inspiration, divine inspiration? Where would you say that was the last kind of thing where you kind of thought, wow, that's really made me change my mindset about anything?
Dan Green, and that sounds like I'm going back to the powerlifting side of things, but I've been very, very fortunate to get to know Dan away from powerlifting and behind the scenes. And I will tell you flat out, he is absolutely one of the most brilliant, deep, analytical thinkers that I've ever met. And, Dan, a lot of the things that he said to me, were never in challenging me to necessarily be a better lifter, but challenging me to be a better person and a better man. And Dan is the kind of guy, he reminds me almost of the Finnish, in that, and by Finnish I mean the people from Finland, in that sometimes you think he didn't hear you, or you think that he just is ignoring you, but he's contemplating his answer. He thinks very, very deeply before he gives you a reply. And, he does, he's a reader, he's a thinker, he's a hiker, he gets outside and does all these things. And it's like, Dan and I have very, very mirrored lives in a lot of ways. And that was something that I'm like, if he's a guy that I idolize on the platform that does everything correctly, and he's got this balance, what's going on here? You know what I mean? But you can't see it. It's like, oh, maybe because I'm a little more focused on powerlifting, I'll get the advantage. Until you realize there is no advantage. We're all working hard. We're all doing the right things. And without that balance, you never come down off of it. And I see so many guys, and I've talked on some podcasts about, some guys that I see that I'm looking in the mirror when I look in their face in 2013. Very unhealthy, very one-sided people. And it's not that I don't care about them. I'm reaching out to them saying, man, before you fall or before you have your accident or before this drives you absolutely crazy, slow down, enjoy it, because it can be gone. It can be gone in an absolute second. And that was the thing. When I was rising, probably the fastest, let's say my star was rising, it was when I hated it the most. It was when I didn't enjoy it. I was doing it because it was, what I had to do. And now when I go to the gym, the same amount of people know who I am. The same amount of people hopefully want to see me succeed. But at the same time, it's mine again. I've taken it back. And I realize as much as that applause matters, my little boy's applause matters most, or my father's or my mother's, or the people that are closest to me. Those are the people that at the end of the day will be there. Because 10 years from now, 15 years from now, whatever it may be, I will still probably be around the sport of powerlifting. Won't be as involved as I am now. But there
are people now coming up, aren't there, that are just going to come up and they're the ones that are going to be taking out. Their stars are going to be rising.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Everybody's going to have their moment. And, whether mine is come and gone or if it's yet to come, I'm very, very happy now to share that with the people who are closest to me when that wasn't true at all. You know, I remember my biggest totals coming, and, you know, everybody on the internet was happy for me, but my family didn't even know I did it. You know, that was how alienated I was from them. And looking back, it's insanity. You know, it's total opposite of what it should be. So, you know, life is full of making choices, and some of those choices good, some of those mistakes. Would I have ever been as good as I was without those choices? I can't say. Yeah. But having the ability to analyze and move forward, you know, that's what I'm thankful for.
So do you think we were talking about it's people talk about, you need to be switched on, and do you think it's the ability or the lesson of learning that you, for as well as you can switch on, you should be able to switch off as well? Yeah. And kind of step away from it, otherwise it does become all consuming and it does become draining. So it's finding, as you were saying, it's finding that balance of going, right, okay, this is we were talking about getting hyped up in the gym about when you're lifting and everyone's and going for it, and you just kind of think, no, you only have to do that momentarily, and if you can't switch it off, how can you switch it on?
Right. And that's the thing, I think about, I work with the military in a lot of capacities as far as training and whatnot, and one of the most, I think for me and for most everyone, the most interesting people are snipers, and their ability to have this hyper precision focus where not only what they're doing has to be absolution of perfection, but what they're doing is a much higher scale where they're saving lives and so on and so forth. But those guys who are, they're so good at trigonometry, they're so good at mathematics, their ability to focus in and do exactly what they have to do in that moment. But then when they put the gun down and they come back away, they're just normal guys, and those are some of the guys outside of powerlifting that I look at, their ability to have that kind of, it is a do or die mentality.
Yeah, very much so.
And then to come back in and shut it off. I don't know if they stayed in that zone that they could be very successful, or if you could even live a normal life. Yeah. And that to me, I was, not to compare myself to a military sniper, but I was so hyper focused about powerlifting. I remember the scene in Pumping Iron with Arnold, whenever he goes, my mom phoned me and my dad died, and he was like, I don't want to hear it, I've got a competition. That was who I was. I was, your feelings are hurt, or you're upset, or I don't care, I've got the gym at 5:30. Yeah. Oh, birthday party at 5:30 on Saturday? Sorry, I'm squatting. And it didn't matter. And the people that, it's little things, but they add up. And I just I kept saying, well, they don't invite me anymore, they don't care about me anymore. Why would you invite somebody that never comes?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
or if you do go, you got a face like a slapped ass.
Yeah,
and because you don't want to be there, or they've not got the right food, or they've not got. It's kind of like, well, you're not exactly a joy to be around.
But I think that was the first step for me, was a guy with, you kind of have to have this balance of ego and lack of ego, and I couldn't turn it off. I could not turn off Brandon Lilly, the powerlifter, and now I can.
That's good.
Yeah, I'm very, very thankful.
Excellent.
For that.
So we've just touched sort of like on Finland there. Tell us, how did you experience Finland? It was a good time.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how you and why you were over there.
Well, I talked to Jennifer Milliron, and she had shown an interest in me coming over. And one of the things that I will do is I will explore any way possible to get myself into new places, meet new lifters, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. So we worked out the finalities of the details and everything, and I also wanted a place where I have a competition coming up, the Boss of Bosses, and it's been 2014 since I've been on a platform at the GPA Worlds in Australia, and I don't know how it feels. I don't know what it feels like now. I don't know how, kind of the nerves are. So I told her, can I come do a seminar or two, lift, and just be a part of it? And she was like, absolutely, that sounds good.
Did you want to do that kind of, I'm going to call it away from home, but off US soil, do you think? Did you want to?
I think, I kind of played my cards right in that regard, because if I did something back home locally, all my friends and all my former training partners are there's a certain expectation. Yes. And not that
you put on yourself as well, is external and internal, isn't it?
Yeah, and not that I'm afraid of expectation. I mean, I'm definitely a full-on competitor, but I have to help myself kind of combat that old mentality and getting away from that and saying to myself, just come here, use this as a training day, figure out what feels good, what feels bad, my hydration, the way that I was eating, the way that I was not sleeping. Everybody in Finland, or in Rovaniemi anyhow, after the day is done, they eat dinner fairly late, 10 p.m. or so. It seems like dinner from 10 until 11. You have drinks from 11 till 12:30 or 1. What do? The sun's still out. Oh, you go to Roy Club. And it's open until 4 a.m. And then the place right beside it, which was a pizzeria, they had amazing kebabs, is open till 4:35. So it's just an invitation to never sleep. And I didn't.
No. So. And then also it say that I think you lifted on the last day, so that it was quite a long time. So we were at the GPC European Championships over in Finland, and the Arctic Power team, Bullfarm Lapland, did an exceptional job. These guys were working not 7 days a week, from, like you say, 7 o'clock in the morning until everything was finished at night, and then they would have had to have set up the whole venue. They had to break down the venue afterwards. And I don't think they could have been more. And most of them as well were spotting and loading on platform, keeping everybody really, really safe. They did a superb job, and I can't remember anybody being an arse.
No, everyone was extremely helpful. And for a people who are as a culture very reserved, very shy, they were very, very welcoming. Went out of their way to help with every single thing that I had an issue going on, and as far as the spotting, loading, judging, I can only think of 1 or 2 calls where I was right on the border, and it could have gone either way. I don't think I saw one single misload. It was just a really, really great event, and I know that the Arctic Pro team was talking about doing what I call a boutique event, similar to what Pro Raw is in Australia or the WRPF has done. So if anybody is paying attention to what I have to say, go. If Finland is an option for you, and it should be, because the costs are actually a little bit less than some of the other places I've been, go. If it takes you, and I encourage all my American friends and lifters, get out of the States. There's so many great lifters that you don't necessarily have the privilege of seeing every day just because you don't know them. So if it takes you 6 months, if it takes you a year, travel. Go out and do one comp at a world level, and I promise you, it won't only change you as a lifter, it'll change you as a person. Because, prior to last week, I didn't know Paul or Tania, and, I feel like I've known you guys not only for forever, but, I feel like we've established a friendship that will go on and on and on. You guys have, so much going for you as people, the gym, and the people around you.
Yeah, we have good people.
And I think that's what anybody should be striving for, is just to have a collection of people that make you better, that in turn would say you make them better. So.